Hey guys, Mustached here to review How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action 2025 remake. So of course, I've seen the trailers for this, obviously. And, you know, Disney has had its fair share of live-action attempts over the years, so it's not so surprising that eventually that another animation studio, primarily speaking, that it being DreamWorks this time round, decided to dip their hands. And over the years of seeing live-action remake after live-action remake, some have been hits, most of have been misses, if not the majority, if not mostly all of them have been from Disney. And it really comes down to the dangerous risk of what to change versus what not to change in a remake, for adaptation purposes, of course. This has been something that has been sort of backed and forth so much. There is this definitive urge for people to say that they don't mind a change to something as long as it respects the original. Though, from every instance I've seen Disney do this, it caused a criticism to occur, or an issue. This has been fairly consistent, and people have attempted to let Disney know. So, when it was said that there would be drastic differences in the storytelling from the initial stuff, creators and whatnot, I was already like, very suspicious about what that actually meant. And lo and behold, I watched the movie, and lo and behold, I think this actually broke the mold in a weird, bizarre way. After all, I did stress how much Disney changes things, and for the vast majority of those particular changes, they end up making any particular movie worse. I mean, take, for example, their last movie, Lilo and Stitch. Changing what Nani's whole perspective and goals were, pretty much ruined that entire movie, and the whole Jumba thing on top of that. And that is very fascinating, because, there was the whole thing about Gantu not being in that movie because it would cost too much money. Interesting. And there's a reason I'm bringing Gantu up, because he was a big fellow. He was a lot to CGI in that movie. And if you've seen the original How to Train Your Dragon, the animated version, you know, if you've seen it, that the end of the movie has a big dragon. And I mean a really big dragon. Enormous, even. So, I thought that we were actually gonna get something drastically different. Lo and behold, and dare I say it, this might be the most one-to-one movie I have ever seen from animated to live action, ever. And, you know what? I'm fine with that. Believe it or not, I'm totally fine with that. It didn't ruin the movie. And sure, you can now make the argument, well, what's the difference? You can literally just watch the animated version. But for whatever reason, if anyone's averse to watching animation for whatever stupid reason, now you have this. This is your one-to-one replacement for the animated movie, literally speaking. There is no distinct differences between this and the animated version other than it's animated, and this is live action. So yeah, in reviewing this movie, I'm practically reviewing the original How to Train Your Dragon movie. As, I'm still going to do it as objectively as possible, but you will see, if you have seen the original, that it is, again, identical to the original movie. So, yeah. And, you know, I will stand by, despite Disney failing to do it virtually every single time, that I do think that there is a way to change things up while still paying respect to the original thing. Though again, I can yet to pull from an actual example of that off the top of my head, especially from Disney, that would be like, yeah, the live action one's actually better than the animated version. I don't think I can do that. Here, I can practically say, well, they're the same movie, so really, it doesn't really matter which one you see, at the very most. And there is like one, maybe two changes at maximum, and they're so minuscule that it doesn't change anything about the movie. But enough with the preamble. The movie opens up with, of course, Hiccup narrating as he does. And it leads to the prefecture of the dragon attack. And his father, Hiccup's father that being, lecturing him about, heading out there not being prepared. And his mentor, Gobber, also trying to stop him from essentially getting himself hurt. Astrid, I don't remember them being the fire brigade, the young squad. They essentially put out the fires that are set out. And we hear through his narration which each type of dragon would lead to if he were to, say, kill it. He sets up one of his inventions, this double shotgun-like contraption that shoots out to these spinning ball hook rope things, and indeed hits the Night Fury as much as he did in the original, although, yeah. So the father yells at him again after the fact, not knowing when he tries to, say the truth about what he had done. But the father yells yet to believe in the son, of course. So he sneaks out, as he does, and while that's going on, the father makes a speech about the dragon's nest. Now, while he's doing this is one of the minor changes that the movie makes. It explains why the other Vikings from other ethnicities would be within this group. And I can guarantee you somebody's gonna find a reason to complain about this, and have been doing so since, like, the whole, like, oh, we can't have diversity and move blah blah blah. It's like, shut the fuck up. Anyway, getting back to the movie, they explain that, of course, Vikings did, historically speaking anyway, did go out and venture throughout the world. After all, they were the first, technically speaking, to reach America, in case anyone needed a history lesson on that. They got there 1,000 years before Christopher Columbus did. Eric Leif Erikson did, of course. But they did travel other areas, and this is a mythical setting, or a fantasy setting, rather. So it is presumed that the Vikings themselves very much did the exact same thing, but went to fantasy islands and found other groups of people, which is what this narration is sort of expositing here. And I digress. Again, it doesn't really change much of the rest of the story whatsoever. Anywho, Gobber is put in charge of the training the new generation of heroes, or potential heroes, while Hiccup finds Toothless, or just currently the dragon as of now. He unties it, and of course, through being able to kill it, and when he re-arrives back at home, he tries to explain how he won't try to fight a dragon versus his father, who signed him up to do the dragon draining, as he heads out the next day to try to find the dragon's nest. So, it is here where they do their little training, where Hiccup gets saved by Astrid. And we see how the others interact, and so on and so forth. And they're not doing so hot, the whole new squad. Gobber gives them the book, and Hiccup looks up what to do with each dragon and each one, as he's sort of narrating through this, as he did in the original. When it gets to the Night Fury, there is no information, and it says avoid at all cost instead of kill it. So we see Astrid more so taking the lead during the training, as Hiccup tries to keep going back and keeps going to Toothless. First time round, giving him a fish, and then doing the little drawing lesson that he does, drawing Toothless, and then having Toothless draw squiggly lines. The only thing I think they messed up where the lines were. Like, the lines in the original were a little bit more sporadic and all over the place. Well, in this version it does look like he could just, after like the first few steps over the lines, he could just walk straight to the dragon. So, you know, slight mess up there, but whatever. Again, I'm willing to point out even when small things, I guess, break away. So anyway, Hiccup begins to build the other part of the tail, since Toothless is missing that. And this is where, through Toothless, he begins to discover what makes dragons tick with the eels and so forth. And he's trying to attach the tail and, you know, the attempt at flying. So, for every lesson he learns, he brings it back to the training course, using the eel this time around in the training course to be the one to put the dragon that they're going up against back in the cage. He does, like, he finds, like, the dandelion or whatever flower it is to, like, do that to one of the dragons. He tickles them when he finds the right spot on Toothless. So this is pretty much like a montage at this juncture, as it was in the original, obviously. And, of course, the light trick, using the light from the shield and the light from the other thing that he uses. But Astrid spots Hiccup, and though suspicion is already there. So the father returns home, and, you know, learns of the exploits of his son, about that, now giving him the helmet, as he did, saying line for line, I think, pretty much what he says in the original, or very close about the helmet and the wife and whatnot, and the breastplate joke. So Astrid gets to Toothless at this juncture of the movie, and when doing so, Hiccup, picks her up and tries to show her that Toothless and / dragons are not anything what they expected them to be. So she eventually apologizes during the ride, which calms Toothless down as it did in the original, and they move toward the cave after the fact of where where the rest of the dragons and the queen, the big queen, that is actually fully CGI animated, so they were able to do it here, but not in Lilo and Stitch with Gantu. Just saying, I don't know. Seems like How to Train Your Dragon respected its source material a little bit more, like in the more literal sense of doing it one-to-one with the movie, in the sense of like the villain or the antagonist, outside of being the father to Hiccup, we actually have the antagonist of the queen, and actually having a respectable full CGI scaled queen that is actually really big. So yeah. Anywho, so obviously, eventually Hiccup is named as like the potential Dragon Slayer, of course, and then he tries to show everyone else that dragons are not what they thought they were, but this goes terribly wrong, which causes his father to hit his hammer against something like the blockade that shields them, which causes the dragon in there, which is the same fire dragon. They use like the same order of dragons, I believe, too, as well, to essentially pretty much go out and make the dragon go nuts, which causes Toothless to wake up and attempt to make his way over there. Astrid helps in the ways she can, which gives Toothless enough time to arrive there, and then he gets captured after the fact, and then he's trying to explain, and through trying to explain, he kind of exposes that he's been to the island, which gives the father the idea that they can use Toothless as a beacon mechanism, and in this instance, we see, him being chained down, and them actually getting into the island, and the various dragons not attacking. And the scent of having another dragon near them is probably what is, help of the mask them, I guess, as there was more directional point happening in the original. There is slight motion in there in this version. It seems a little bit less noticeable. Anyway, minor thing. But I digress. The dragon, of course, makes its true presence known. They're overwhelmed by its girth and size, and it burns all the ships and causes Toothless and Hiccup, who gets to Toothless at this juncture, to fall under the water. Toothless, of course, still trapped there while Hiccup is brought back up. The father frees Toothless as he did, which allows him to essentially Hiccup to re-ride Toothless up in the air to get the big queen distracted and in the air, and have it battle in the air, prep its fire attack, and have Toothless, once it's almost ready, to fire its breath into the opened mouth of the queen, which causes it to fall to its death. But the fall is impacted, and the fire did its damage. As we all well know, if we watched the original, of course, there is that moment where you think, and they do it one-to-one, where they think Hiccup is dead, and then Toothless reveals that he's fine, with the exception of his leg now being gone. I believe it's his left leg. And thus he is brought back unconsciously back to the hut. X amount of time passes. We see the new version of Burke where dragons are now integrated into the society as much as it was in the original. And then we get our big old finale with narration from Hiccup about how the lands are, fierce and strong and wild, but they have something that no one else does. And of course, our dragons. And that is How to Train Your Dragon. Both the animated version and now the live action version, as I just mentioned. 1-to-1, as close as you can conceivably get. And yeah, I thought it was fine. The very, very minor changes, and explaining why there are Vikings from other areas and so on and so forth. Things like that don't really impact the full story. But overall, yeah, I don't know what else to say other than this is, again, the most faithful adaptation that has come out ever of an animated movie to a live-action movie, so it is what it be, I guess, and, I don't know how I can score this any less than the original. I think I gave the original an 8 or 9 out of 10, probably, from what I can remember, because that movie is amazing, and, well, this is 1-to-1, so I feel obligated almost to give it, the same score, an 8 or a 9, whichever one it was, out of 10. If not a 10, I don't remember, but here we are. I think I've reviewed the original. I might have not. It's been a while. I've been here for a while, in case nobody knew. But yeah, that is my review of the live-action How to Train Your Dragon. And if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. I want to head you over to my petition about small YouTubers, second to my PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly, and third to my Discord server. You can join collab, show, do cool stuff for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.